Great Lakes Prepping here with your weekly prepper report for the week of November 8th, 2020. Well, unless you're deaf, blind, fingerless, and incapable of extrasensory perception, you're aware that the presidential election results have declared a winner. With all the buildup around fears of major civil unrest, looting, rioting, or other widespread violence in the aftermath of a winner being declared, I'm happy to say that there seem to have been only a few isolated incidents of actual violence so far, and maybe only even marginally related to the election itself. There were a couple incidents that didn't involve violence specifically, but were noteworthy enough to maybe keep our eye on nonetheless. Obviously, there have been mass gatherings around many big cities throughout the country, made up mostly of people celebrating the election results. I think it's worth mentioning that these were celebratory in nature and not violent by any means, but nevertheless, I'm still not going to be anywhere near crowds of that size, pandemic or not. Just a matter of general practice for me. There was an incident near a Philadelphia ballot counting location. On Thursday, 2 armed protesters were arrested. I don't know precisely what they were suspected of initially. They were found to have rifles in their vehicle, but were actually arrested for carrying concealed pistols without permits. Not violent, not a violent crime, not a violent arrest, and my feeling on it is that this would probably be a non-story if they had CCW permits and accordingly didn't happen to get arrested. But who knows? There's also a story about armed men gathered at the Arizona State Capitol building on Saturday to protest the election results. And while these sort of demonstrations have happened in several locations in various places around the country, this particular protest raised eyebrows because speakers addressing the crowd were quoted as saying, "We all know Trump won the election, and look in the mirror and ask yourself what you're willing to do about it," followed by chants from the crowd of "liberty or death." It was reported also that a number of militia groups, such as the Proud Boys and the 3%ers, whatever they are, were among the crowd. A quick note, I'll remind everyone watching that this channel and this report aren't about advancing or even really discussing any particular political ideologies, mine or otherwise. I mention these things purely for the sake of examining the state of and the potential for turmoil in this country. I find value in assessing things with an objective mind, such that I can make a personal judgment about whether it could constitute any type of threat to supplies, security, or stability. These things affect all of us, and because opinions and emotions tend to run pretty high when it comes to this subject, I like to add this little reminder in pretty often. I'm not here to discuss the merits of or drawbacks of conservatism, liberalism, or anything in between. This is about examining potential disruptions of things that may factor into our personal lives with regards to preparedness. That's all. I know sometimes people like to jump to the comment section pretty quickly if they even have a smell in the air that I'm talking about one political party over the other or opining on anything of the sort. I'm really not. I'm just talking about examining from an objective standpoint things that could be considered noteworthy. The state of things, the state of the sort of stress level in the country, and what that could or hopefully doesn't lead to. That's it. That does bring me to the last story I'll mention on this topic, and it's a pretty wild one. In the Oakland, California area, police have been dealing with a group of thieves that the Oakland police chief has referred to as a roving caravan of robbers and looters. If that isn't a headline that'll grab attention. As over the course of 2 nights last week, a large band of heavily armed young adults stormed several stores in the Oakland area, stealing cash and merchandise of various sorts. And I'm paraphrasing a few different sources that I've read and seen on this. So these are more or less my words, but I still have to read them because there's no way I'm going to remember all these details off the top of my head. So far, at least 25 looters have already been arrested. The incidents have also resulted in 1 dead suspect and 2 injured security guards. Among other places, these groups of robbers targeted drugstores, shoe stores, electronics stores, sporting goods stores, and even marijuana dispensaries. All sorts of merchandise was taken, including ammunition and pharmaceuticals. And while learning about this story, I came across reports of other looting incidents around the California Bay Area. Police aren't quite sure yet if the participants are all part of the same group or loosely connected in some way or what. There's believed to be over 50 people involved in these burglaries and break-ins and robberies. They're still sorting that out and dealing with it pretty actively as we speak. Police believe these acts to be attempts at capitalizing on or possibly initiating election-related civil unrest, particularly while police forces are stretched thin with things like protests and election-related activities. So while not exactly politically motivated, these people took advantage of the situation to engage in some seriously egregious criminal acts. And that's pretty despicable. Well, what can I say? This is a tale as old as time if you're a prepper. Any little fray in the fabric of society can be enough for opportunistic buttholes to start causing very serious problems. While this one was relatively isolated to that certain area in California, let it be another page in the lesson book for why we stay prepared and stay vigilant. All right, enough about that. Let's move on to something more positive and uplifting. Grocery and supply shortages. Both the predicted and actual uptick in purchasing, as well as deficit in production, continues. Some large grocery store chains, including Kroger, Giant, and H-E-B, which I've never actually heard of before, I guess it's big in Texas, have begun or expanded the limiting of certain items, putting limits on them, how many you can purchase per visit, that sort of thing. Toilet paper, certain cleaning and disinfecting products, and some other items. The president of the New Hampshire Grocery Association has said this about the state of the grocery supply. Expect fewer product choices and the rationing of certain items. I'm sure that depends on the store, the geographical region, and so forth. Expected shortages of paper products and sanitizing products. We already kind of talked about that one. Some other items seeing a noticeable increase in sales are fresh produce and frozen food. Well, I've been saying it a lot lately, but be sure to get what you need while you can get it. If you've got any holes in your supply plan, get them filled. Unrelated to groceries and the food supply specifically, propane heaters and outdoor fire pits of all sorts are apparently flying off the shelves around the country. My understanding is that they're being snatched up like crazy by retailers and restaurant owners to try and make use of outdoor space as the weather starts to turn cold. They have limited capacity because of various state and local restrictions related to, coronavirus. So they're trying to use that outdoor space well into the winter. Because of this, availability is becoming an issue, and prices are already starting to shoot up quickly on some of these products. Also, propane may become more expensive and even possibly difficult to find in certain places because of the expanded demand on that supply. Now, the larger patio-style propane heaters are more popular in the sort of category of heaters that are being snatched up, and for the purposes that these stores and restaurants are using them, but even smaller propane space heaters are seeing a bit of a buying surge. And as the winter comes in anyway, these types of products have more people are buying them anyway. And now with the added interest in preparedness, and now this whole thing with the restaurants and stores, I would expect that that combined with just general shortcomings in the production across most types of products, we should expect that these aren't going to be available throughout the entirety of the season. Lastly, it's speculated that there could be shortages of certain prescription drugs. And this is something I hadn't really even thought about until pretty recently when I read something about it. I think I'm okay. I don't think I have anything to worry about there, but check into this and see if any of the prescriptions that you need are at risk. Let's talk about this week's weekly challenge. This one is right in line with something I just talked about. Cold weather is upon us in the northern states, although we've had a strangely unseasonably warm weekend here in Michigan. But except for that, temperatures are falling. It's getting close to freezing. And I want everyone to consider how you will stay warm, how you will heat your home if the power goes out. So what does this mean? Well, do you have a whole house generator? Or do you have a generator that can be hooked up in a way that it will power your furnace? Furnaces are usually gas powered, but they still need electricity to run the blower. If you do have a generator that can run your furnace, do you have plenty of gas to fuel the generator? How about a wood stove or a fireplace? If you have one of these, will it sufficiently heat your entire house or a part of it that you can sort of dedicate to your warm room if need be? If so, do you have enough firewood to get you through an extended outage? That's up to you to decide how long that is. For me, I like to be able to comfortably run everything for longer than probably the average person. I would say definitely prepare for a week with this kind of thing. That's sort of your run-of-the-mill, power lines are down, storm, something like that. Usually it's not that long in this country. It might be a few days. Plan for as long as you can manage, just like with everything. There are specific types of propane and even kerosene heaters that are considered safe to operate indoors. Be sure to use the right kind of heater. Not all propane and not all kerosene heaters are the kind that can be used indoors. You don't want to screw around with this. Follow the safety instructions. Every year, people die from using the wrong kind of equipment indoors. This is on you to learn about and do it the right way. You have to stay warm, but you have to stay alive too. Also, consider anything that could freeze in the parts of your home that aren't heated by a fireplace or portable heater. Do you have stored water or canned food preps that are at risk of freezing? Are you able to relocate those items to the heated section of your house for the duration of the outage? So as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, there is apparently a rush on propane heaters. This may or may not include the types that are considered safe for indoor use, but I am seeing a fair amount of activity on retail websites for these sorts of items. As with everything, make sure to get what you need while you can. All right, normally this would be the good deals segment of this video, but since we're talking about heating your home and also potential shortages in portable heaters, I'm going to talk about some good products to consider but that aren't necessarily on sale. So this is the good deals part of the video, but I can't promise that these are especially good deals. They're just things to consider. First, I really enjoy my Mr. Heater Buddy propane space heater. I use it for camping and hunting every year. This is a catalytic style heater that is safe to use indoors. It has auto shut-off safety features if it tips over, or if it detects risk of low oxygen levels, it automatically shuts off. It puts out a lot of heat, but it does sort of blow through those 1-pound propane canisters. There is a way to use it with larger canisters, like the kind you use on your barbecue, but be sure to follow all the recommendations if you do this, because otherwise you can actually ruin the heater altogether if you don't use the right hose, for example. The stock on these Mr. Heater Buddy heaters seems to be pretty okay for now, but I can already see the prices starting to creep up. Secondly, I've heard good things about the Dyna-Glo indoor kerosene heater. It's more expensive, but it also puts out more BTUs. The product specs claim that it will comfortably heat 500 square feet, and 1 tank of kerosene will last for 13 hours. Well, I know from experience that that's quite a bit longer than 1 pound of propane in the Buddy heater on full blast. I would expect to get more like 5 hours, something like that, out of that. Now, I'll admit that I've never actually used an indoor kerosene heater, and I was honestly a bit surprised that there's any type of kerosene burning heater or appliance at all that's safe for indoor use. I guess I'm just not up to speed on all of the latest technologies in the kerosene heater world. But I'll disclaim that since I have no experience with this, you must absolutely follow all the safety precautions and instructions if you're going to use one. I don't know if there's a special kerosene you have to use or what, but just be sure to do it right. And I'll include the link to both of these heaters in the video description. Check them out. Make sure that you can stay warm if your furnace can't run. But that's about it for this week. And because any prepper news reports are inherently going to have a certain air of doom and gloom about them, I've decided to end each video with a little something to cleanse your palate. That's right, dog videos. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for next week's weekly prepper report. Keep leaving those comments, and if you know about something that I ought to mention in an upcoming report, shoot me an email to greatlatesprepping@gmail.com. Stay informed, stay prepared, and stay vigilant. Until next time, this is Great Lakes Prepping.